Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Monday night council meeting. It is the 31st meeting of the 145th Council of the Corporation of the City of St. Thomas. Are there any disclosures of interest from any of the members who are all sitting in different spots and may not recognize you all night? So, but I see no disclosures of interest. Let's move on to the minutes.
I have a motion that the minutes of the meeting held on October 20th, 2025 be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Council will now resolve itself into committee of the whole to deal with the following business. First committee is strategic direction and development. First item relates to railway lands area secondary plan, terms of reference and study. I have a motion that report PD 5625 relating to the railway lands area secondary plan, terms of reference and study area be received for information. And further, the council approve the terms of reference for the railway lands area secondary plan. And further, the council endorse the recommended study area for the railway lands area secondary plan. Moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Councillor Herbert, then Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, this is a pretty impressive project for the city to undertake. When you read it all, it really gets involved. So a couple of questions that come to mind. On actually on the first page on the financial impact, I just curious, do we know who the other interested landowners are in that statement? Right now, we know it's Doug Terry. It says, and other interested landowners will cost recovery. Do we have any idea who they are?
Well, we know who the other landowners are. We are trying to get their interest in the project.
So through your worship to Councillor Herbert, so we do not know at this time. Our next step is having a landowner outreach meeting where we're going to present the project and and talk about the secondary plan and how to be involved. And through that, we hope that we'll have, it'll be an opportunity then for interested landowners to raise their hand and and join into that process. There's ways, they can be involved if they choose not to join into that process, but that's when we'll know who's involved and who's not.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question.
Certainly.
When you go further in the document, it shows you a really big area outline that possibly it would work. Do we own all that land, or how much of the land do we own? Or do we have to expropriate some of that land if we really wanted to make it work?
So through your worship, we own a portion of land within the secondary plan area, but it is an extensive area and the vast majority of it is by private landowners. So through the secondary plan, the intention is that we will develop more refined policies and more refined standards for future development to help make it easier for people to develop should they so choose, and also to allow the area to develop in a comprehensive way that best meets the needs of the community. There's a variety of studies going on, which as part of the secondary plan, which will help to provide more information about, what sort of development is most appropriate where, and also make it more streamlined for future development in the area.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have one quick question, and I'm not sure whether this would follow under Technical Advisory Committee or the Landowners Working Group, but is it possible, maybe it's already there, somebody from the Municipal Heritage Committee and the St. Thomas Downtown Development Board would also be part of these committees? Just my question.
Great question.
So through your worship to the councillor, that is certainly something that we can explore further. There is the intent that we would be engaging directly with the Municipal Heritage Committee and also the Accessibility Advisory Committee on the project, just given, it's a very significant project. So looking at, bringing it to these advisory committees, but the Downtown Development Board, that's something that we can certainly look into further too.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to staff. I'm always kind of wary of approving something when we don't know what the costs are. And this one is kind of, we'll get started and we'll figure out as we go who's going to pay what and when and how much. I'm just wondering whether we have some parameters or some idea of what the minimum and maximum cost might be on this.
Through you, Your Worship. Great question, and we are still working through some of those cost estimates. This is going to be primarily developer funded. We are, as the city, a stakeholder in this, so we will be funding through staff time and our participation in the process throughout as a co-lead, funding portions of the project. So we're going to be looking at various options in terms of maybe coming up with area-specific charges as these lands develop to help fund some of the costs for the participants, the developers funding this project. But it's a good question, and we do plan to come back to council at some point in the very near future with a memo of understanding in terms of how we're going to deal with some of those what some of those finances are as we start to get more input on some of those numbers.
So if we approve it tonight, but we don't like those numbers, we're already down that road, right? So I'm just wondering why we wouldn't wait a couple of weeks until we knew those numbers.
Through your worship, part of the rationale to get moving is, as Michelle mentioned, we want to start engaging with other stakeholders in this area to get more participation and possibly other funders to help fund some of this study. There's multiple large landowners in this that we're hoping will help contribute to some of these costs. So we need to launch that study now.
Good.
And with that, I understand the mutual benefit of Railworks, the city, Doug Terry Limited, looking at the railroad lands, which was kind of what we started with. But I'm puzzled by how if we study the larger area, what the implications are. You know, a large landowner might say, "Well, thanks, that's great information. I'm not paying for it because you already did the work, and the information's going to be there whether I pay for it or not." Or I guess the idea is if we go through the study, do we have is there anything legally binding where we've then forced these other landowners to have to kind of do what Plan B or Plan A is going to be like through the study? You know, mentions that they're going to come back with a couple different alternatives, whether or not that's going to include any of the larger area. Because I just see it as, you know, we don't own the land. How can we tell people what to do if we already have
Thank you.
zoning in place?
Sure. So through your worship to the councillor, so the intention would be that sort of through these area-specific charges, that at the time of development, the funds recovered through those charges would go towards paying, would go back to the developers towards the funding of the secondary plan. The idea being that if you're benefiting off it, if you're getting these permissions and you're taking advantage of those, that would be, you're contributing because you're benefiting from it. There's a lot of landowners in the study area, and there's some landowners who, those sites may never redevelop, but there are a number of sites that, on their own or in consolidation with other landowners could develop. So those would be the ones who are sort of paying for it through that process.
Go ahead.
Supplementary. I guess the question is, though, if we go ahead and look at this larger area and there's a large piece of land there, and through the study we decide, oh, this is the best way to move forward with zoning or integration or whatever, as we like, is there anything binding that landowner would then be in the future have to kind of build according to the plan? Or is it his land, he can still do what he wants, he or she could still do what they want with it? I guess I had a couple calls where the public was kind of trying to understand what, by us doing a secondary plan, what that means for those large portions of land that currently have been sitting empty and haven't been developed, and whether or not this plan will help move things forward, or do the owners still just hold the final cards and could do what they want with the land in the future?
Yeah, sorry. So through your worship, through the planning process, there's nothing we can do in order to force a landowner to develop, but we can put the framework, policies, and either zoning bylaw permissions or CPPS permissions, depending on, should we choose to pursue a CPPS in this area in the future, which will help to make it easier to develop and potentially help to incent development in certain locations, because you've already got permissions, and those permissions are for something that, is desirable for you to turn your land into. You're much more likely to do that than if you have to go through the full, rezoning or official plan amendment process to get those sorts of permissions for your land. So it's this idea that it'll help to make it easier for people, and also it'll also make sure that the whole area, the reason the study area is so large is so that the area will be thought of comprehensively. So you're not having these areas that are developing without sort of consideration of the more broader surrounding context. So it's looking at the area holistically, and then through that seeing, what's appropriate where. Ultimately though, it is up to any given landowner what they choose to do with their property.
Councillor Kohler.
Thanks, Your Worship. Councillor Clark hit on quite a few of the ones I was going to ask, and Councillor Herbert too. But when I looked at this, especially on the financial impact, the memorandum of understanding coming back, how much work do you think is going to be done within that plan before that memorandum comes back for? Because at that time we have the option, if we don't like the costs, and we're not going to do it. But and I know, as Councillor Clark said, that there's a lot of people in the public that are interested in this. Like, what's the estimated time frame from start to finish, and mainly when we're going to see the memorandum of understanding, where I think the real work will start then? Because I'm hoping not too much work will take place in the meantime, and maybe the memorandum of understanding already comes back and we got 100,000 already into it. Like, with the exception of staff time, like staff, we're always going to have that, but it'd be, if you have that, I don't know if you even got a good estimate on timing on it.
Yeah, so through Your Worship, the memorandum of understanding is the next priority. It's the next item we'll be bringing to council. It's something we'll be working on imminently. So I expect, we'll bring it to council before the new year. There's a likelihood we may undertake the landowner outreach meeting prior to that, because that will help to feed into the memorandum of understanding. So we'll know who is involved and who the different parties are. And I'll pass it off to Lou in case there's anything else to add.
Yeah, through Your Worship, a lot of your questions will be answered when we bring that follow-up report to you. Work done between now and then will not be substantial work to really add to those costs. And like I mentioned before, this study is going to be primarily funded by developers, by landowners. We, as a city, are one of the landowners, and we're contributing through staff participation. So the cost to the city, there will be costs, but they'll be minimal in comparison to the cost to the developer and landowners.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried.
Next item relates to the Housing Accelerator Fund Action Plan Progress Update. I have a motion that reports CMO 4925 relating to the Housing Accelerator Fund Action Plan Progress Update be received for information. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Taylor.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Must have been an exceptionally detailed report. Thanks.
Next four items relate to the Committee of Adjustment. First is a notice of a public meeting to take place on November the 13th at 10 a.m. regarding an application for minor variance by the trustees of First United Church. And this is to permit a minimum of 51 parking spaces for daycare and church use, whereas the minimum number of required parking spaces is 68, and that's at 26 St. George Street. The second minor variance application relates to a minor variance to allow a shipping container to be used as an accessory structure in the downtown Talbot East commercial zone. And that is for Speedy Auto at 940 Talbot Street, whereas the zoning bylaw permits shipping containers as accessory structures in the rear yard of a lot in the major commercial, secondary, and highway, commercial, and power zones. Third public meeting relates to a minor variance by Larry and Karen O'Brien to permit the parking and storage of one recreational vehicle in the rear yard with a maximum height of 3.5 meters from the ground, width of 2.6 meters, and a length of 10.7 meters, whereas the zoning bylaw permits the parking and storage of a vehicle with a maximum height of 2.4 meters from the ground, a width of 2.4 meters, and a length of 6 meters. And this is at 337 Wellington. Final is a notice of decision from the committee, and that's to permit the installation of a rooftop mechanical penthouse and an indoor-outdoor amenity area above a proposed 5-story apartment building with a maximum height of 21.44 meters, whereas the maximum height permitted is 20 meters, and that's at 65 Walnut Street. If the members have no further items for this committee, we'll now move into community engagement and services. First item relates to the Warrior Health Program funding opportunity. I have motion that report FD 1325 relating to the Warrior Health Grant Program funding opportunity be received for information. And further, the council direct that a bylaw be prepared authorizing the mayor and clerk to sign the transfer payment agreement with the Ministry of the Solicitor General relating to Warrior Health Grant Program funding support. Moved by Councillor Kohler, second by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, Worship. Well, this looks like a grant that's going to be well used for sure, I would think. First question for you is this a one-time grant? You have to apply for it every year.
Through your worship to Councilor Herbert, as far as I know, this is a one-time thing, but hopefully this continues. One of the people that's based in the Warrior Health is former Toronto Fire Chief, Chief Pegg, and he was very forward in helping this and realizing his value in a big city like Toronto, how something like this could be that. So when he retired from the city of Toronto as their fire chief, this was the project that he helped take on and bring some of those key players that we already use through different agencies. The Homewood's listed in here, Boots on the Ground, and a few others, Trillium. These are some of, but they brought everybody together to allow access. There's even 24/7 access. And it's just not for you, it's for your families also. So this is something that we hope continues. Again, this is was put out this year, and we applied, and with your willingness, it will be part of this.
Thank you. Follow-up?
Sure.
So what do you do now? If you don't have this grant money, how do you fund to have your department get mental health care and things like that?
Through you, your worship, to Councilor Herbert. So they would go through our benefit program. So individuals, if they needed some type of help with their family, they would go through our current benefit program, seek help through any providers that they use, whether be psychologists, psychiatrists, or however they want to navigate that process. This just gives us a little bit, I'll say, another tool in our toolbox to help mitigate any of those situations that may help within our service and other services within the emergency response groups.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? It's carried.
Unless there are any further items from the members for this committee, we'll now move to infrastructure and civic operations. First item relates to Emsley Field Grandstand structural assessment. I have a motion that report PRF 3325 relating to Emsley Field Grandstand structural assessment be received for information, and further that the Emsley Grandstand be closed to the public until necessary structural repairs are completed to ensure public safety, and further that council approve inclusion of this project in the 2026 capital budget process and direct staff to explore external funding opportunities, including grants relating to heritage preservation, accessibility improvements, and infrastructure renewal. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, second by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Councillor Baldwin-Sands?
Thank you. I have a few comments, if I could, please.
Good.
The first, under the recommendations, I would also like to see it expanded under funding opportunities to look at sponsorships, naming rights, possible additional advertising as revenue streams for the Emsley Field. Also ways to increase capacity, taking it away from a single source use to multiple uses. In the past, we had Emsley Field as a concert area. If people do recall, we had the RCMP musical ride, we had band tattoos, we had Chivalry, Canada Day activities, all done inside the field itself, which made it a source of pride for people to come, to attend, and to take part in many of the activities at Emsley Field, and I would like to see that happen again. I also did a little bit of background because growing up with a father who coached a lot of baseball, including Councillor Herbert to my left, could hear a lot about when growing up about Bob Emsley and the where it's named after, and being a Canadian pitcher working in the Major League Baseball. He also set numerous records as an umpire, born in the city of Guelph, but chose St. Thomas to be his home. He is on the honor roll of baseball and the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. He is buried here in St. Thomas in the West F Cemetery. And I would like to see him, if we are going to look at renaming this in order to get sponsorships or naming rights, to be able to have some sort of plaque commemorating Bob Emsley and his contributions to sport in this community as we move forward. Thank you.
Councillor Clark?
Thanks, Your Worship. I too, like Councillor Baldwin Sands, understand the historic importance of Emsley Field itself. But I guess my approach would be to maybe look at option C, and that is tear down the present grandstand. It was built in the 1950s or 40s, and back in those days, semi-pro baseball was, you know, a large form of entertainment where you'd get 3,000 or 4,000 people out. But times have changed with so many things available in the form of entertainment that, you know, minor baseball is using the field now, and even on a tournament, they're not getting, you know, those kind of numbers. If you look at what's been done in Chatham or in Woodstock, they've gone with an approach to it with a new enclosed area, much smaller in size, but still would keep a large number of people out of the sun. It would be accessible. And again, we could still dedicate the field itself and the space to Bob Emsley, but not at the cost probably that we're looking at for trying to repair this site. So I know it's an option to look at it in the budget, but I'd just be like to go to Plan C for some investigation in terms of what it would cost to build a much smaller but newer option. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? I have one and it fits kind of where you are, Councillor Clark and Councillor Baldwin Sands. I'd like us to get a little bit more research as to what could also be done. But I'm also a bit distraught that we keep getting things in the fall that are talking about the capital budget. And until the capital budget is done, I don't know how we can speak of what will happen. I've read this recommendation 2 or 3 times, and I guess it doesn't commit us to do anything but put it in the capital budget. So fine, that automatically puts it in the capital budget for us to talk about at budget time. But I'd rather this council look at budget time and other repair items, you know, after we look at what has been presented from staff on what the cost might be for the capital. From what I'm reading here, we've got a little bit more work to do before we can come back with a real plan on, as Councillor Clark has said. So I'll leave it till capital budget. I'm okay with us saying, hey, let's look at it. If that's what this, if I can get enough nods that is what this is saying to us. Madam Clerk, am I reading the
Thank you, Your Worship. I think perhaps with one wording change, instead of approve, direct the inclusion into
Okay.
the budget process
I'd
or
feel
forward.
Yep, that it goes into the process, but
Right.
the word approval also scared me a couple of times as I read it. So I'd like to do budget at budget time and other things at other times.
So with the mover and the seconder, are you fine with changing the word to forward or
direct.
Direct? Okay, thank you.
We'll come up with that. Further questions or comments on, after we've now changed that wording just enough to make the mayor feel more comfortable? And I thank you all. Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to the St. Thomas Area Secondary Water Supply System Elevated Water Storage Facility License of Operation. A motion that report ES 4925 relating to the St. Thomas Area Secondary Water Supply System Elevated Water Storage Facility License of Operation be received for information, and further the council direct that a bylaw be prepared to authorize the execution of the licensing agreement between the St. Thomas Area Secondary Water Supply System and the City of St. Thomas. Moved by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Sorry, Councillor Taylor, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. One of the comments in the report was that the current water tower is removed fairly quickly, if I understand. How do we operate between the removal and the installation of a new tower?
Kevin?
Is that a simple question?
Yeah, I think it
Simple
is
answer.
because of how near the pipes are to each other, but Kevin, help us with this?
Certainly, through the mayor to Councillor Taylor, one of the objectives of the secondary board was to allow for the construction of a new tower while the existing tower remained in service. And so this licensing agreement provides that opportunity by using a small portion on the Darewood water reclamation facility site. So the existing tower would not be decommissioned until the new one is commissioned.
Okay. Further questions on it? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. So this is the new technical term, elevated water storage. We can't call it the water tower anymore?
Through the mayor, I didn't want to get into the naming of the tower in the future because I think the old ones all referred to the Ford Water Tower. So I did not want to get into that piece.
Okay. I'll leave it till we build it and then we can name it something, but yes, but elevated water storage, I've got to remember that. Yeah. Next item.
That concludes the items under this committee unless the members have any further items. We'll now move into corporate governance and administration. First item relates to the budget schedule and procedures. I have a motion that report TR 2025 relating to the 2026 budget schedule be received for information, and further council adopt the proposed 2026 budget schedule as outlined in report TR 2025, including condensed procedural timeframes for the council amendment period and council override period allowable under regulation 530/22, and further the council authorize staff upon receipt of the final assessment roll to make the necessary administrative adjustments to the city's budget to account for any differences between the estimated and actual assessment growth for the year. Moved by Councillor Gibson, second by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments on this report? Councillor Clark?
Thanks, Your Worship. Since it's new, that the format's new because of the strong mayor powers, and you had directed staff to do it.
Mhm.
So does that mean you've also given up like the mayor veto period and therefore the need for a council override period? Is that there for formality because of the legislation? Or would it mean if we amended something in the amendment period and you didn't like it, that you could still veto it? Or how is it tying together with you passing on the mayor's powers to staff originally?
Well, I'll answer my part and we'll let the clerk jump in after. I expected it to be exactly as previous years, that I've relinquished the strong mayor's powers of being able to, or where the mayor would deliver a budget and you'd get to vote on it. I could veto what you said, those types of things, and really use a similar system to what we've used in the past. And speaking with our new treasurer and the city manager, that's kind of where we are. The department heads and the departments have been currently looking at their budget and doing their best job so that they could bring it forward to us. We'll see it, of course, in that first week of December, I think is what we've said. December 3rd is the first time council would see it. I expect to play no role but chairing that meeting on December the 3rd. I'm still a bit lost, and I'm happy to say that on TV. I'm a bit lost as to when Song Mayor's powers might click in. I just get mad at Councillor Clark on Wednesday and I can just invoke it, I guess. I'm still saying we've got the best council in the world and works well together. So I'd like to go with the premise that that's exactly what we're doing. I guess. Madam Clerk, how close have I said where I think we are?
Close, your worship, but not quite. The mayor cannot relinquish his responsibilities under the budget. So necessarily, the mayor has the veto power, but can also reduce the time period. He just does that differently from council. Council can loosen up the time frame by resolution. The mayor must do so in writing. So he still has the veto, but can shrink down the time from the timeframes that are outlined in the treasurer's report.
Because as you know, we've been such a good group at getting budgets completed early, both capital and operating budget, so that we can get to the street on some of the projects we have out there. I don't want these types of powers to be in the way of us stretching it out, so we'll do our best to make sure that's exactly what we're still talking about, Councillor Clark. Councillor Kohler?
Thanks, Your Worship. I certainly appreciate that and looking forward to it. But kind of what I was hoping through this whole process, and I hope that's what's still going to happen, is that the budget that hits council table is something that you are prepared to vote for, and it is your budget. And then we still get our discussion that goes through that to make some amendments and maybe avoid some of these other formalities about vetoes or anything like that, unless we totally turn it upside down. But especially to try to get things out to tender first. Hopefully we have a budget that's sitting on the table that we're prepared to move in second and move forward on and go. So I'm hoping that that's what we're going to see between you and the treasurer.
Well, I agree with your thought and our history. I'd like to be there. The new treasurer and I are still arm wrestling as to who has what power in this, but no, I'm just teasing. There's been a lot of work done behind the scenes already. And I'll tell you, it's heavy lifting right now with what we're doing in our community. So I'm being apprised of where we currently stand and each day and any change that happens. So far, I can't say I love where we're at, but I love the process we're going through to get to where we're at. Good enough to say? I think so. Further questions or comments? All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
That concludes the items for this committee, unless there are any further items from the members. Seeing none, Your Worship, Council will now reconvene into regular session. I have a motion that the recommendations, directions, and actions of Council and Committee of the Whole, as recorded in the minutes of this date, be confirmed, ratified, and adopted. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
No reports of committees. Next, under communications, first item, a letter has been received from Southwestern Public Health requesting a deputation at an upcoming council meeting to introduce the Intervention for Health Enhancement and Living Program called iHeal. I do have a motion prepared should council support the deputation request. Sorry, Your Worship, and the motion is that council support the deputation request from Southwestern Public Health regarding the Intervention for Health Enhancement and Living Program at a future meeting of council. Moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor Taylor.
Can we have questions and comments on that? I'd like to share, this is the start to a process that we've been looking at instead of just automatically putting a deputation here that takes up a fair part of our meeting, but to have groups that are asking for a deputation to please send us a fairly detailed report on what it is they'd like to come and share with us. And that in their report, the last line would be, if you have further questions, could we have a deputation? That's truly what has been asked of us tonight. They've asked for a deputation, but I'm not certain they've explained what they're coming to share with us enough. So we may have to fine tune this process just a little bit more. But I'm okay that this says that at some time in the future, we could allow the deputation on this topic. In the interim, we may ask them, can we get more detail on what it is that you're coming to share with us? And we can see how it affects council and how council will have to make a decision. So if you're okay, that's my thought as to where we should go. Councillor Gibson.
Your worship, I must agree with you. I would like to see something first as a presentation sent to us with documents that we could read over. Then we can have a discussion at a council meeting. If we have further questions, then at that point, we can maybe ask Southwest Public Health to come in at that time. Thank you.
And I would submit that this recommendation or the report that we have before us says exactly that we can ask them for more information and ask them at a future date for a deputation should it be required. So with having said that, all in favor of this report? Any opposed? Carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. And the Clerk's Department will endeavor to ensure that we have sufficient information when we receive these in the future.
Right. Super.
Next item is the Electric Avenue and Ron McNeil Line roundabout design for farm equipment. A letter has been received from the Elgin Federation of Agriculture regarding the design of the roundabout for use by farm equipment. I do have a motion that council direct that the letter be forwarded to the Executive Director of Industrial Development. I move by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments on directing it to the director? Councillor Clark.
I guess my initial comment was that the most enhanced safety for the citizens of St. Thomas, since it's a city street, is to have agricultural equipment move, north one road and travel down that where it's safer. We just designed it. To me, roundabouts make things very safe and by slowing traffic down. And I'm not sure what we would gain by allowing the large agricultural equipment to continue to travel down that road, and why they just can't move up a concession and take 5 or 10 minutes out of the time. So I guess that's me being a crotchety old guy, I guess.
Kevin, I know that you're not this, but we designed a roundabout on a road that we've recently assumed, and as Councillor Clark says, we've found great safety in using roundabouts at some of those intersections. But I don't know who we spoke to before we did that. And by referring this to the director, I'd like him to kind of say back that here's all the steps we took. And Kevin, if you have an answer now, I'll take a little bit, but I'd really like to hand it off to Justin and say, hey, how'd we get there?
Through the mayor, I'll definitely relay that message to my counterpart. But I do know that like truck turning radii is always something that we consider in all of our roundabout designs. You've seen that with the apron in the middle, even with the radius, the curvature of the roadway to make sure that those vehicles can maneuver through there. Like I said, I'll take this back as information and share that with the executive director.
We asked for it to come back fairly quickly. Some people have been asking this question. So a combine's a little different than a truck. And so I just want to make sure we had that conversation before we did this and had the conversation with the current agricultural farms along that street. So, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a resolution received from the Township of Stone Mills regarding funding relating to the removal and replanting of trees affected by the emerald ash borer. Next item is a resolution received from the Township of Edsboro Cardinal regarding the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund. And then finally, the last item is a letter of thanks received for the mayor attending the recent Kirk of the Tartan celebration by the Knox Presbyterian Church. Your worship, unless there are any other petitions or communications from council, we'll now move, sorry.
That's
Your
on. Go ahead, Councillor Clark.
Did we discuss the home builders letter?
John, would you
25.
mind coming forward and reading that one out? I think I've got an amended agenda without that in there. Sorry, Your Worship, there was one further item, and it was a letter received from the St. Thomas Home Builders Association. You got it, John? Thank you.
Okay. Do it with as much flair and drama as you can.
Sorry, Your Worship, and to Council. So the letter has been received from St. Thomas Elgin Home Builders Association regarding proposed updates to planning services fees.
Go. Yes, Councillor Clark.
Thanks. I believe that we were going to discuss it with them anyway, so I don't know whether Lou needs any direction. I think he's already on it.
Go. Mr. Pompili,
Yeah.
you're already on it and we know it, so.
No, through you, Your Worship, I did have a discussion with the home builders. They were very gracious in organizing a meeting last week. Went out to all their members, and several of them attended a Teams call that we had last week. It was a very productive discussion. But they presented with some of their concerns, some of their questions, some of their issues, and I tried to explain things as best I could. I think we ended the meeting very professionally, and I think they committed to follow up with this letter that's attached to all the council members. I prepared to comment on a few things. I do agree that communication could have been better. It can always be better. As I explained to the members, most of those members aren't members that make planning application fees. They make building permit fees. But a lot of their consultants are the ones that we deal with. And I have been, and my team has been over the past several months, communicating through all our consultations and any opportunity that we have to state that we are going to be looking at our planning application fees. They're long overdue in terms of having a look at them and increasing them, and that we would be doing something that would take effect in 2026. So we have been communicating that to the consultants of a lot of the builders and developers primarily that are part of the home builders, and I think they understood that. In hearing some of their concerns, I am prepared to make a couple of adjustments to the bylaw. And I'm happy to present that tonight. And if council is so inclined to go along with that, we can make that amendment to the bylaw and keep it moving forward. Some of the increases that were brought up that seemed to cause the greatest concern with the home builders was the part lot control fees and their rapid increase. And so I committed to go back and look at that and to give that some consideration. There was some question about the zoning amendment fees as well. I'm of the strong opinion that the new zoning fees are very competitive, very reasonable, and they still keep us at the lowest in the region, if not the province. And I'm not inclined to amend the zoning fees, but what I did do and the commitment I made to the home builders is the same commitment I'll make to council tonight. My plan is to monitor these increases and their impacts. Because one of the things that I wanted to introduce was a separate zoning amendment type of fee. I didn't include it in this current bylaw because I want to be able to just see how these impacts flow through. And some municipalities have brought forward a planning fee. What they tend to call it is a minor zoning amendment fee. There are some of those zoning amendments that they're not quite a minor variance, but they're more fees that they are zoning bylaw amendments, but they're minor in nature, and those tend to impact mom and pop residents, not builders, not developers, persons that may be discouraged by a $3,000 fee as opposed to a lower fee. That's something I want to monitor with these increases and maybe bring back something within the year to council to see if it's worth adding another category of fee to help in those situations if it becomes a problem. So I'm committed to do that. I explained that to the home builders. That was something I wanted to do. And I'm saying that to council as well, that the fee isn't final. But one thing that I'm prepared to recommend when it comes to part lot control, the fee increase went up to $2,000 and then an additional $200 per lot created through part lot control. And looking at it, I'm comfortable in amending that fee to a $1,500 fee and $100 additional fee per lot. In my opinion, that wouldn't have huge impacts on our from a budget perspective for the municipality. I think it's creates a lot more fairness for applicants as well too. So that's something that I'm prepared to bring forward for council's consideration.
And in your conversation with the Home Builders Association, they agreed or liked that you were sharing with them there may be a modification on the bylaw?
Through your worship, yes. What I committed to look at, particularly the part lot control fee and the zoning fee, and in looking at that, I am prepared to reduce that fee as suggested. And that and the zoning amendment fee were the primary ones that were brought forward as concern. And I will, as I mentioned, also commit to monitor the impact of these fees going forward as well.
Okay. What do you need from us to do this? Or Madam Clerk, what do you need from us to do it?
Your worship, since we have already placed notice on the agenda that the fee bylaw will be considered this evening, if council wishes to provide direction to reduce that fee, then the bylaw can be corrected before council adopts it later this evening.
Okay with you, Lou, for us to do it that way too?
Through your worship, yes, I'm comfortable with following that approach. And in my impression from my discussion with the home builders, I think they'd appreciate that as well.
Great. Then let's remember when we get there. Any further questions or comments on this piece? Councillor Clark.
Was there any area of the new bylaw fees that they wanted or thought should be higher?
Yeah.
Through your worship, no comment on that.
Yeah. I'm sure they had plenty of thoughts. They just didn't share them. Right.
Yeah.
Next.
Your worship, that now concludes the items under petitions. Next order business, unfinished business. If there's any items from the members for unfinished business of council? Seeing none, we're now at new business of council.
Councillor Gibson, then Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to do a reminder to everybody. I'm sure they don't need a reminder, but just to let everyone know, the Remembrance Day service plans are going very well at the Legion, and we're working very hard to ensure. We're just hoping Mother Nature will also will be in favor. So it's on Tuesday, November 11th, and we're asking the public to please come by 10:40 a.m. because we like to start the service by 10:45 so that we are on time for the 2-minute silence and for the flyover, so it's in good timing. And we just hope the public will come out. We're just hoping to have a good crowd, no matter what the weather is. We have to remember young men fought in weather that was very much in climate, and I'm sure we can do the hour and a half outside. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. And Councillor Gibson, if I can share, thank you very much for being there last week. We did pin the first poppy on the mayor ceremony. There's a great new QR code over at the memorial site that gives, if you use the QR code, a great deal of history about Canadians that have been involved. And it's a great new modern addition to our memorial site. And of course, we walked the new crosswalk, which was really quite quite great to see and to see veterans out there with it too. So I thank you for being involved in that last week too. Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. Well, if you didn't go to the pumpkin prowl on Saturday night, you certainly missed something. Hundreds and hundreds of kids. We started at 5 handing out candy, Councillor Baldwin Sands and Rose, and Your Worship the Mayor. We hung in till after 7. Kids
You
were
said
sti-
you were going home at 6. I don't know. You were
Yeah.
still there at 7.
Well, it was just fabulous to see the people dressed up. You just can't believe the outfits the kids chose. There was a headless couple. Unbelievable. I don't know if you remember, you were probably unbelievable, but the stuff we saw, the kids were all friendly. There was really nobody. They're all saying thank you and they were really well. But in Talbot Street being closed off, how many compliments did we get for Talbot Street being closed off? They
Hundreds.
just kept coming, so. And my wife Rita and daughter from Vancouver came
Yeah.
too, Carly, they're up there selling.
Yeah.
And we were there for 2, we were supposed to volunteer from 5 till 6, but we hung in till after 7.
It was
you know.
fun.
Fabulous night. And Jennifer Badcott, who organized all this and her team, what a great job she did. So anyway, it was fun to do, just fun to do. So thank you.
I'd like to also point out that the closing of the street made it far safer for all the children, but it also, because of the crowd on Talbot Street, prevented Councillor Taylor from coming across to visit us. He had to stay on his side of the road, so it was. Any other further new business? Seeing none.
Thank you, Your Worship. Next order of business, public notice. First 2 items, notice is hereby provided that administration intends to introduce a report and bylaw at the November 10th, 2025 council meeting relating to both proposed 2026 sewage service rates and proposed 2026 water rates, fees, and charges. No further items, under that form of notice, and no notice is a motion. There is a need to move into closed session at this time. I have a motion that this meeting be closed to deal with a labor relations matter and a matter of a position plan procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the city at this time. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Taylor.
I'm game to give it a shot. We've got 9 minutes before we have a public meeting, so. Quite further question?
Your Worship, the next order of business are bylaws. I have a motion that leave be granted to bring in the bylaws. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
I have a motion by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Gibson, that the bylaws be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole, and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. First bylaw, please.
First bylaw is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on the 3rd day of November, 2025.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Second bylaw is a bylaw to amend bylaw 50-88, being the zoning bylaw for the city of St. Thomas. This is to remove the holding symbol at Miller's Pond Phase 6.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Next bylaw, please.
Third bylaw is a bylaw to impose various fees and charges with respect to planning matters, noting that the part lot control values have changed to 1,500 and 100.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Next bylaw, please.
Fourth bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and Elgin Floor Covering Limited. This relates to a site plan file for the property at 1026 Talbot Street for a building addition.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Next bylaw, please.
Fifth bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and JEG Home Solutions Incorporated. This relates to a grant acknowledgement agreement under the Community Improvement Program for the property at 539 Talbot Street.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Bylaw is carried. Next bylaw, please.
Sixth bylaw is a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and the corporation of the county of Middlesex. This relates to the Ontario Transit Investment Fund Intercommunity Transit Partnership.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Bylaw is carried. Next bylaw, please.
Seventh bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and the St. Thomas Figure Skating Club. This relates to a license agreement at the Memorial Community Center.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Bylaw is carried. Next bylaw, please.
Eighth bylaw is a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and the St. Thomas Area Secondary Water Supply System. This relates to the elevated water storage facility license of occupation.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Next bylaw, please.
Ninth and final bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and His Majesty the King and Right of Ontario as represented by the Solicitor General. This relates to the Warrior Health Program funding.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. I rise to report the successful passing of 9 bylaws.
Good.
I have a motion by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Gibson, that the report of council and committee of the whole on the 9 bylaws be received and adopted. The same be read a third time, engrossed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Your worship, no further business this evening. At this time, I have a motion for adjournment by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. We are adjourned.